The mystery genre. Well, the definition of the mystery genre is a genre of fiction in which a character of a detective solves a crime or a series of crimes. Because detective stories in the most of times are based on logic, and the supernatural elements rarely appear in the stories. The detective may be a private investigator, a policeman, an elderly widow, or a young girl, but he or she generally has nothing material to gain from solving the crime. They didn't want to pay. They look for prestige and honor. And to confirm this and an example of this, we interview a school teacher.
Mystery genre. Well, when we talk about mystery genre, we immediately associate it with movies or literature of suspense that generate some curiosity that have relation to actions that can be explained well. That escape from logic and science, and require an investigation and an exact analysis to find answers.
Well, about mystery. When you speak about mystery, I think immediately about Edgar Allan Poe, about Agatha Christie, and and some books of horror too, like the one from Bram Stoker, Dracula.
But now, the beginnings or the history of the mystery genre. Well, the mystery genre has been very developed in the last 200 years, and although it was great a long time ago, but it wasn't very famous because before 1800 there were not so many commissariats or garage service, so the detective wasn't known. And after 1800, the mystery genre it was becoming more and more famous because all the people were meeting the detectives. And after a lot of recognized artists of this time became famous making books that were very symbolic for the genre. For example, Edgar Allan Poe and his book Murder Street Crimes, Arthur Conan Doyle and the books of Sherlock Holmes, and Agatha Christie and his books Murder in the Orient Express. And one of the first one, Ernest Theodor Amadeus Hoffmann, and his book Mademoiselle de Scuderi. Well, now we are going to see the types or subgenres of the mystery. There are 5. The first one is the cozy mysteries, subgenre of crime fiction in which sex and violence are not considered important and treated humorously, and the crime and detection take place in a small community. Now the second one, the police procedural. It's a subgenre of fiction that shows the activities of a police force as they investigate crimes. The traditional detective novels usually focus on a single crime. Instead, police procedurals frequently represent investigations into several unrelated crimes in a single story. In the police procedural, the criminal's identity is known to the audience from the outset, while in the traditional mysteries, the entity of the criminal is known in the climax. Hard-boiled is a literary genre that shares some of its characters and settings with crime fiction, especially detective stories. In this subgenre, the protagonist is a detective who witnesses the violence of organized crime. The detectives of hard-boiled fiction are often anti-heroes. And now the thriller. It's a broad genre of literature, film, and television. Thrillers are characterized by giving viewers heightened feelings of suspense, excitement, surprise, anticipation, and anxiety. Thrillers generally keep the audience on the edge of their seats as the plot builds towards a climax. And the last one, the medical thriller. It's a suspense novel that takes place in a hospital. The protagonists are usually doctors or nurses. The plot is based on situations unique to medicine and medical research. The examples are Robin Cook, Michael Crichton, and Tess Gertz. Now we asked 2 teachers to talk about what types or subgenres of the mystery they think that exist.
Well, there are variants. If you ask me about a classification, we can give a literature theory, cinematographic, but based in the experience, obviously the horror is one of the classification that in all the horror movies is present the mystery. Also is the police mystery, that future we discover through some clues to solve a crime. The ones that have some supernatural facts but not necessarily enter in the horror.
Okay, from the genre of mystery, we can have detective stories like the ones from Agatha Christie, and I think that horror was inspired mainly by mystery novels.
For now, we're going to see certain tip-offs that exist in the mystery genre. Well, the first one, and the most important, is the mystery, crime, or another case to be solved. The second one is the main character. It's a detective that solves a mystery, a crime, or whatever thing. Then are the suspects. These must be weighted and evaluated. The hidden evidence is present essential details, but they are offered in such a way that they seem unimportant. The inference gaps. There are mysteries that don't tell the whole story. It's up to readers to notice the gaps in the story and try to fill these gaps by using and connecting the information that is presented. Having an important role, the creativity and imagination of the reader. Another important tip-off is the suspense. Having to hold various possible conclusions at bay as you wait to see what happens. This generates that you must read to find out what will happen. This keeps the reader until the end. And the last but not least, the red herrings. This must be a kind of foreshadowing clue that leads the reader to false conclusions. Now we're going to see certain elements common to the most mysteries. The first one are the characters. The characters are the individuals that the story is about. The author should introduce the characters in the story with enough information so that the reader can visualize each person in her mind. Setting. The setting is the location of the action. An author must describe the environment or surrounding of mystery in such detail that the reader feels that can imagine the place. Plot. Plot is the actual story around which the entire book is based. A plot should have very clear beginning, middle, and end, with all necessary descriptions, so that the reader can make sense of the action and follow them. Now, the problem or crime. Every mystery has a problem and a crime or a murder to solve. Authors should fill mystery stories with clues so that the reader can try to solve the case along with the characters. Obviously, the last one, the solution. The solution to the problem is the way the detective solves the mystery, finding a missing item or the person who is responsible of the crime.
I think that it had to be a curious fact that calls the attention of the public, spectator, or reader, that can't be explained with facility. It had to be intrigue and be a victim, I don't know, and sometimes supernatural elements, crime.
Well, when we speak about mystery novels, you have to think about, I think, according to what I have read, uh, three main features, which are good characters, a spooky setting, maybe, and a good story to be told. You see, and you have to mix these three ingredients and to create a good product.
As we already know, the mystery genre it has been present in great authors among the years. An example of the mystery writers, we're going to talk about two great writers. The first one is Dashiell Hammett, who was an American author of detective novels and short stories, screenwriter, and political activist. He was born in May 27 of 1894. His first published was in 1922 in the magazine The Smart Set. The most important works were The Maltese Falcon, The Thin Man, Red Harvest, and The Dane Curse. The Dashiell Hammett is considered an important writer because he was one of the first who wrote about the black novel. Also, he is considered the master of the black novel. Elmore Leonard. He was an American novelist, short story writer, and screenwriter. He was born in October 11 of 1925 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Leonard has his first success in 1951 when Argosy published the short story Trail of the Apaches. During the 50s and early 60s, he continues writing and publishing more than 30 short stories. Many of these novels were converted into movies, like The Tall T, Valdez is Coming, and Joe Kidd. He is considered a very important writer because he wrote a lot of stories and novels of this genre, and also many of his novels were converted in great and famous movies. And in the mystery genre, there are a vocabulary in common that relate to the mystery. So we are going to see the 8 common words in the mystery genre. The first one is abuse. To use wrongly or improperly, to treat in a harmful, injurious, or offensive way. Commissions is the act of committing or entrusting a person, group, etc. with supervisory power or authority. Facts, something that actually exists, reality, truth. Judge, a person appointed to decide in any competition, contest, or matter at issue, authorized arbiter. Mystery, anything that is kept secret or remains unexplained or unknown. Criminal, guilty of crime, of the nature of or involving crime. Arrest, to seize a person by legal authority or a warrant, take into custody. Justice, the quality of being just, righteousness, equitableness, or moral rightness.